This is the Seahawks Squad Show. I'm Anderson Hurst. I'm going to tell you why that was the worst Sam Darnold performance that we have seen as a Seahawk, but that may not be a bad thing.
I'm Chris Crawford, and I'm going to tell you why Jackson Smith Njigba is my best friend.
And I'm Rob Ryan, and I'm here to tell you that this Seahawks defense is for real, and the rest of the NFL is figuring that out.
Hey, 12, it's the Seahawks Squad. Everything Seattle Seahawks every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Emerald City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get loud, 12s. The Seahawks Squad Show starts now.
What up, 12s? Welcome to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang with you today. Normally, we would be doing our post-game show right after the game, but for hopefully, understandable reasons, we are doing it one day later because of everything that was going on yesterday. We have some time, and I think this is actually a little therapeutic for me because a lot of times when we go live right after the Seahawks game, we don't have a chance to kind of look back at some plays, break things down, and then when we do our later episode, it's a lot of looking forward. Today is going to be all about the game that we just watched, and we've had some time to break down the film, kind of double check, make sure we can think about what we want to say. So I think this is a cool little thing that we're doing this week after the Monday night win over the Houston Texans. Seattle goes to 5-2. But before I get the thoughts of my experts today, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right. Chris Crawford, what are your thoughts on the Monday Night Football win for your Seattle Seahawks over the Houston Texans?
So I'm glad that we got that day, like you mentioned, because I think I would have been a little too harsh, because if you would have told me watching that game that it was a Thursday night game instead of a Monday Night Football game, I wouldn't have blinked an eye. Like, there was some really sloppy stuff. That being said, I'm glad I kind of took some time to realize, number one, that Houston defense is legit. There's really good ballers on that team. They have one of the best edge players in Will Anderson. They have one of the best cornerbacks in Mike. I almost called him Mike Singletary and Derek Stingley. I don't know why I got that confused. And they have one of the best defensive coaches in D'Amico Ryans. And all of that adds up to they're going to make some teams look sloppy. There were still some unforced errors. There were still some plays that I thought were not conducive to long-term success for the Seattle Seahawks. And I will also point out that the Houston Texans offense is problematic. Remember when we were talking about like Bobby Slowick, and I know Slowick isn't there anymore, is like the next guy.
Yeah.
The guys there are not the next guys in Houston, Texas. All due respect to them. They're doing their best, but still, the Seahawks defense was really impressive. And in particular, I was so impressed with what I saw from whenever Houston took 4 turnovers and you give up 19 points and kind of really only gave up 12 because you gave up a touchdown in a not garbage time situation, but a situation where the game was pretty much out of control. This defense is legit. The Seattle Seahawks defense is legit. Jackson Smith Njigba is more than legit. He is just an absolute superstar. There were a lot of good things from this, and ultimately the biggest good thing is getting a home win. Getting a home win against a team that is not the New Orleans Saints, right? even though the Houston Texans are not, I don't think they're anything close to Super Bowl contenders. They're legitimate enough that you can celebrate a home win, because it's been a while, folks. It has been a while since I felt really good about a home win. Not that I felt bad about the Saints win, but I felt really much more happy about this one than I did beating New Orleans.
All right, Rob, initial thoughts after the win on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, as I said in the opener, guys, I just think that this defense is 100% a legitimate top 5 caliber defense, and it's good enough, I think, that can kind of power this team for a deep playoff run. As Chris just mentioned, the Houston Texans have a very talented defense. And I use kind of this analogy or this reference, I guess, with Corbin Smith on our Locked On show previewing this football game. It's almost like that Spider-Man meme where they're kind of pointing at each other, and I just thought that there's two defensive-minded head coaches that have built their team around the fact that they have a quality defense and then an offense that's designed to be a little bit more complementary. But Seattle just kind of threw that meme out the window and just destroyed the Houston Texans offense. And again, Chris kind of referenced the late touchdown, kind of a garbage touchdown that the C.J. Stroud was able to engineer. Obviously, there was a touchdown the Houston Texans scored when they were able to get that forced fumble of Sam Darnold. I mean, that's 14 points right there, or I guess if you take out the PATs, then 12 points right there. I mean, other than that, it was just a couple of field goals by the Houston Texans before and after halftime, basically. And so, again, I thought the Seattle defense dominated, very similar to the way that they dominated on the road in Jacksonville. Of course, against the Jaguars, they had those 7 sacks. This time, they only had 3 sacks. But what I liked most about it, guys, is that despite not getting as many sacks, they had twice as many passes broken up, 12 passes broken up in this football game. When you consider the fact that Seattle is dealing with a banged-up secondary and still had that type of production, and again, to Chris's point about this being a home victory where Seattle has struggled, it was with all of the emotion that was in the air in Seattle because of the fact that the Mariners were playing for opportunity for the World Series, because of the fact that this is Monday Night Football, because of the fact that Seattle had struggled at home, to win this resoundingly, I thought was a tip of the cap to the entire Seahawks organization, from the general manager, John Schneider, to the head coach, Mike McDonald, and obviously all of the players involved. This is a good football team in the Houston Texans that Seattle made them look like they were JV. So, again, I think that the Seahawks fans have got to be walking into this bye feeling very good about where this club is going.
And I like that you mentioned the bye there, Rob, because I think that's a big element to put into this, because they do get a week off. They play next Sunday night in Washington, who may not be as good as we all thought they would be going into this year. So they have a good opportunity to really string some wins together. And I think it's been a really good, they've already strung a couple really good games together, to be completely honest. When you go Jacksonville, and then into the game against the Texans this past Monday, those are 2 good teams. Those 2 could be 2 playoff teams if we look at the end of the day. Now, I agree with Chris. They're not Super Bowl contenders by any stretch of the imagination. But one of the complaints about the Seahawks team was they hadn't really beaten a great team yet. I think the Pittsburgh win also looks better and better as the weeks go along. And then, the Jacksonville win, I think we'll look back on that as a good one as well. I think tonight falls into that category where you're not going into a game where you feel like you should steamroll a team. You got to do what you got to do to win the game, and that's exactly what they did. I want to start on the defensive side of the ball. You guys kind of alluded to it. Just how dominating is this? I think on both sides, we can be like, well, how much of this was the fact that they were going up against who they were going up against? I think the offense looked a little bit shaky. And I don't want to say like completely out of its element or anything like that, but I think a lot of that had to do with how good the Houston Texans defense was. You could say the same about how good the defense looked, Seattle's defense, against a very questionable offensive line. C.J. Stroud, I think he played well. There was no Nico Collins for most of the second half. Like, there are some elements where you can put a caveat on this defensive performance. But, Rob, how much of that would you put with the situation that they had in front of them?
Well, no question about it. Houston Texans, basically, once Nico Collins went down, and then they were basically just throwing the ball to Dalton Schultz, the tight end, and they had no other real offense there. But at the same time, I also thought that Seattle kind of knocked Nico Collins out of that football game. They almost knocked out C.J. Stroud from that football game. They basically made Houston one-dimensional because they certainly couldn't run the football. And so, again, I think that there's no question. I mean, the level of competition was lesser, but the fact is that Seattle has not been a home field advantage for the Seahawks here in the last year and a half or so, and they kind of seized that opportunity back. And so I just, every time, guys, that I get down about anything else basically in life, I just focus in on Leonard Williams and just watch the man just wreak havoc. It just makes me feel better about being a Seattle sports fan. And so, he, didn't have the most dominant statistical game. But at the same time, when you see his effort running all the way out to the flanks in pursuit, downfield in pursuit, you see him being asked to play upfield as a traditional defensive lineman, then out of the 2-point stance on the edge. That to me just fires me up about Seattle has a legitimate superstar that can kind of tilt the game in the Seahawks' favor. And so to me, that was one of the most encouraging things, because it almost feels like regardless of the opponent, our co-host Robert Turbin often talks about who are the consistent playmakers. To me, Seattle has two guys, one on each side of the football. Jackson Smith Njigba, certainly, but I think Leonard Williams is starting to get the national exposure and attention that he should. And Dan Orlovsky, of course, was helping call the football game last night. I mean, he said it that Leonard Williams is a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate. It's like, yeah, duh, where have you been? Of course he is. And so again, I mean, to me, that was one of the most encouraging signs of this game. And again, obviously the fact that Seattle entered this game without Julian Love, without Devin Witherspoon, both of whom would practice this week, so you're expecting to be back on the field. Instead, it's Ty Okada and Nick Eamon-Wari, the prize rookie, having yet another showy performance. Again, I think there's an awful lot of reason to feel very optimistic about where this club is right now and where they're going.
Yeah, and you stole the words right out of my mouth, and I love that reaction to that Chris just had, because Dune Moose sees the same thing that I do. E-Man is so fun to watch. Talk about Nick Eamon-Wari, because, Rob, you just mentioned that one of the playmakers on either side of the ball, Nick Eamon-Wari is starting to get up into that category of he's one of those guys. I know he's just a rookie. This is just, his fourth game or something like that. But, Chris, talk about what this guy does. He's special.
I have talked about it before, and I promise it's not just tooting my own horn. The two guys I thought the Seahawks had to get in this draft, one of the two, you had to get Nick Eamon-Wari. Why is that such a difficult name to say for me? Maybe I'm got Nico Kudavitas on my mind or something like that. Nice. You had to get one of Gray Zabel, and you had to get one of Eamon-Wari, and you got both. And that's why this is such a special potential draft class for me. He's just awesome. He can do everything you want. Anything you want on the defense. The thing about him is there are now two guys on the Seattle Seahawks that you have to scheme around offensively. You have to scheme around Leonard Williams, and now you have to scheme around Nick Eamon-Wari, because there are things he can do as a safety / linebacker / blitzer. He's going to be a problem in this league for so long. Sean was asking about this. Rob, I had the game on mute. I watched the replay on 1.5. Sean Scotchman asks, I missed the beginning of the game. There was a questionable call about a potential safety. I've watched that replay a bunch. I'm still confused why they ultimately didn't rule that a safety. Rob, as the expert of experts in here, what's the reason for that not being a safety on that play?
That's very kind of you, and I wish I had a better answer for you. But in my mind, that was a safety every single day of the week, except on Seattle on Monday Night Football. I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, C.J. Stroud and the ball were both clearly on the other side of the line. Uchenna who had him wrapped up. I just think that we live in a time where I think that the referees, frankly, want to always give the offensive players the benefit of the doubt. And so I think that's why they did it, basically. I think that they were worried this is a late game. They want to keep that national television audience. I hate to kind of throw that, conspiracy kind of theory out there. But if Seattle jumps on Houston Texans as dominant as they were early in that game, then I think that a lot of people are turning the game off. And so I think that they want to kind of keep that out there and just give C.J. Stroud the opportunity to have the ball basically there at the 1-inch line when clearly he was behind it.
Yeah, it really bugged me. It was pretty clear to me that it was a safety. Sometimes I think that the thank God the real refs are back people need to have a little bit of a talking to, because maybe they're just not that good either, if I'm being completely honest with you. Real quick on the defense too. DeMarcus Lawrence was so freaking good today. And watching him set that edge, to be a guy that you have to worry about as a pass rusher and to be able to be that good. And it allowed Nwosu to make plays. It allowed a bunch of people to make plays. this Seahawk defense was just outstanding today. But DeMarcus Lawrence is one I wanted to make sure I brought up.
Yeah, and no, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to me, he's my favorite player to watch in the Seahawks. I mentioned Leonard Williams before, but I feel like you know who Leonard Williams is. Any Seahawks fan out there knows who he is. If you don't, then you're just not paying attention. But DeMarcus Lawrence, of course, the fact that he missed most of last year with the Dallas Cowboys with the injury, and there's been all this speculation, oh, he's old, he's washed up, the Cowboys let him go. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, to me, he is just, and I hate to keep using Mariners references, guys, because I know that there are some
just
some
stop it, Rob.
No,
Don't need more of
we
it.
Need it.
I apologize, but I just think that there's some Josh Naylor. Like I am that guy. I want that smoke. And kind of a mentality with DeMarcus Lawrence that it's not that the Seahawks lack that, but I think that just more of it just brings that ferocity, that physicality that I think is really a trademark of a Mike Macdonald's defense. And I think that to Chris's point before about Nicky Manwari, that he brings that as well. And so again, it's not just because I think that Seattle is athletic or they're tough or they're smart. I think they're all of those things. I think that they're just meaner and nastier now than any defense that we have seen since the great Legion of Boom defenses. And so, again, I think that DeMarcus Lawrence and Nicky Manwari, both on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of their career and where they are, just because one player is obviously a much older player. Yeah. But still, I think that these are guys that are true dudes that the rest of the league is going to have to figure out because they are going to be a problem for a long time to come.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And I think those people that may have said that DeMarcus Lawrence was quote unquote washed, I just think they're used to seeing him be a dominant pass rusher. And while maybe it's a skill set that he's regressed a little bit in, I think he dominates in a different way now. He sets the edge almost better than anyone on this team. He's excellent in the run game, and he still can get to the passer. Like he can still do that. He's just not as dominant as he was in his early years with the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah, and it's perfect for this Mike Macdonald defense. It really, really is, because they needed someone like that. And just last thought on the defense for me. To me, this was kind of their breakout game. I realized they played really, really well up until now, but it's almost been a clean football, do your job, play well defense. Today or Monday night was an example of they started to make some plays. They started to fly around the football field, get to the quarterback, cause turnovers, and just be more of a disruptive defense than I've seen them be up until this point in the year. You could still be a really very good defense without kind of having that vibe, just doing your job, stopping drives, getting the ball back to your offense. It almost seemed like this was the first game that the Seahawks defense took over. And that's something that I really hope continues to move forward, because I think that's how Mike Macdonald wants to win football games. But you know what really helps Mike Macdonald win football games? That's having a superstar wide receiver. And we're going to talk about JSN in the second segment here, because I think he's full stop, top 5 wide receiver in this league. He's just breaking out before our very eyes, and it's fun to watch. He's incredibly fun to watch. We'll talk about his impact. We'll do a little bit of Sam Darnold talk a little bit later on in the show, the Seahawks Squad Show. After a Seahawks victory over the Houston Texans on Monday Night Football, they moved to 5-2 on the season. We'll be right back, talking a little bit of offense.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back to Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang with you. If you're joining us to distract yourself from Mariners depression, welcome. That's why I'm doing the show today.
Yep.
I can't wait for the Seahawks to play against Toronto. Oh, wait.
Oh, no.
I'm going there, guys. I'm sorry. I just I needed to. Seahawks win on Monday Night Football to go to 5-2 on the season against a decent Texans team. And we will kind of break it all down. Let's go to the other side of the ball, offense. And I want to start. Normally, we'd start with the quarterback here, but I want to start with Jackson Smith Njigba because, man alive, that dude is always open. And when you throw him the ball, he always catches it. And I know in a game, I haven't even looked up the stats. I probably should know. He had to have at least 10-plus receptions, I feel like. In a game where he was fed a lot, I almost feel like you need to just keep feeding him more. And this is the first time I've felt in a long time as a Seahawks fan, you have a true go-to receiver. And I realize a lot of people will say, oh, DK Metcalf before he left last year. It never really felt like it was a guy, and maybe that's the fault of the quarterback or play calling as well, where they would be looking for him every single down, no matter what, security blanket sort of vibe. I'm starting to get that with Jackson Smith Njigba, where it's like, hey, he doesn't even have to be open. Sam Darnold just throwing his way, and it's going to be caught. So, Chris, I know you were on this early, so I want to get your thoughts. You love Jackson Smith Njigba. Do a little victory lap for us.
Yeah, very little because I don't feel like running too much. It's been special to watch, and I want to thank two people. First, I want to thank Brian Hartline because obviously that guy is the best wide receiver coach in probably all of sports, and I imagine he'll be a head coach of Penn State or someone else. That obviously has helped. Let's also give a shout out to Tyler Lockett because clearly Jackson Smith Njigba has watched Tyler Lockett because I've always been a huge fan. Like the athleticism, the ability to make plays after he gets the football in his hands, all of that stuff. It's all there. His route running is so much better. There have been some highlights that for those of us who are old enough to remember End One mixtapes, they would be on the End One mixtapes of him just crossing dudes up because it's been so impressive to watch his work on the sidelines, in the middle of the field. And what I really love about Jackson Smith Njigba, I don't think he gets enough credit for the toughness that guy shows. And the toughness he showed after that interception in particular, where he was basically ready to fight the entire city of Houston. I don't want that. I don't want him to get beat up by a bunch of dudes. But I will say there's no questioning like whether a guy this guy's willing to go over the middle, whether or not this guy is going to you ever have to worry about him getting 2 feet in because he's worried about that push or anything like that. He's just a special offensive player, and it makes, DK Metcalf's a very, very talented football player, and I wish DK Metcalf was a Seahawk with him because I think that would be as good of a wide receiver pairing as there is. But it makes it easier to justify those type of moves when you know you have a go-to, when you know you have, and whether he's top 5, top dozen, whatever, he is a guy. He is one of those guys that has a chance to be. What I love looking at the stats the other day, 50 catches already, right? You take a look at that and you think, probably 620, 630 yards for what he'd be. It's already over 800 yards. This is not a guy who's dinking and dunking in the football field. And credit to Sam Darnold, credit to a lot of stuff. But JSN is just a special, special player. And I hope he's a Seahawk for a really, really long time.
Yeah, and Rob, I want to get your thoughts in just a second, but you mentioned giving him credit to Tyler Lockett, and then one of the things that and I totally agree with you, by the way, I also want to think maybe, because when he first came in the league his rookie year, he seemed like a very reserved guy, would kind of just take his catch, get out of bounds, and the last couple of years, like you mentioned, his toughness looks incredible. Maybe you credit little DK Metcalf to that, because that's very DK Metcalf-esque. So he's learned from the two guys that he's been with from the last couple of years. But Rob, just speak to how special this guy is, because you're the scout in this room in terms of football things, at least. And I just want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, to me, one of the most exciting things about Jackson Smith and Jigba is just the lateral quickness. And you see that over and over again with just the way he releases off the ball, whether it be press coverage, whether it be a man coverage. He's kind of deceptive in his gait. He will kind of alter how he runs and gets defensive backs on their heels. And then his ability at the stem of the route, right, when you have to make your cut. Again, he just has an ability to kind of always give a different move. And so whether it be a credit to Tyler Lockett, who was a magician at that, DK Metcalf, who of course can accelerate as well as any big receiver ever has, Cooper Kupp and his professionalism going to all those quarterback meetings. I think that again, we are seeing Jackson Smith and Jigba just kind of blossom in front of our very eyes here, and I think that it's just a beautiful pairing of his physical talent with the toughness that you guys have talked about, and then just the smarts as well.
Yes.
I think that Sam Darnold deserves an awful lot of credit. I mean, he is just feathering in some passes here. They're just perfect with JSN. But I love the fact that Chris mentioned the toughness that JSN demonstrated after that interception. To me, that shows a different level of competitiveness than but also controlled competitiveness. We saw DK Metcalf come out, just swinging at times on guys, and they can't have that. No. And there certainly is still some mistakes from JSN. Of course, he got the unsportsmanlike penalty for slamming the ball over the end. Or the,
Can we stop doing that? By the way, the dunk celebration is one of the coolest ones in football.
I agree. I think that's ridiculous. But again, you don't want to have a player getting penalties. We all know that. But to me, again, the competitiveness that he demonstrated on that was a terrific play by the corner, Derek Stingley. I mean, he just had a terrific reception or interception. I mean, he just showed like wide receiver like hands in that particular play, and that was one of those kind of get your popcorn kind of matchups that I was really excited about when the schedule came out. I'm not going to say that I thought that Jackson Smith and Jigba was going to become this kind of a player, but Derek Stingley had already demonstrated him being that type of a player. And so I was really excited to see if he was going to match up against JSN and perhaps even shut him down, because what I see with the Houston cornerback is some of the lightest feet, the smoothest hips of any cornerback in all of the NFL. And frankly, I thought, looking at who the Seahawks have beaten so far, I thought, okay, well, JSN has gone up against some quality defensive backs. He hasn't gone against Pat Surtain of Miami. He hasn't gone against, some of the truly elite guys, but he is going up against one of them here. What's going to happen here? And for him to still be as productive as he was. And I happen to have his statistics right here. 8 catches, 123 yards, yet another touchdown. Guys, he's got 43% of Seattle's receiving yards so far this season. That's easily the best in the NFL. I mean, it is out of this world. It feels like if there's any team that could slow him down, they might have Seattle beaten, but nobody's been able to do it yet. So again, it feels like that somebody should be able to, but again, it's just kind of to me, I'm at the point now where I'm just marveling about what this guy's doing, because week in and week out, as the challenges, as the spotlight gets bigger, he just kind of continues to excel.
Yeah, I keep trying to because he reminds me of someone, and I finally figured it out after rewatching this game last night. And the way you guys talked about lateral quickness, that kind of seconded it. He reminds me a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm curious if I love comps. I'm someone who will always comp one player to another player. And again, for those who are new, we're not saying that player is going to have the production level of that other player. It's like a style of play sort of thing. So Rob or Chris, either of you agree with that? And if not, who do you guys think he reminds you of?
I don't think that's a terrible comp. I don't think it's a bad one at all. There's a kind of uniqueness to JSN that honestly makes him a little bit difficult to comp. Yeah. But I can see it. And there's elements of his game that remind me of Puka Nacua. There are elements of his game that remind me of, a little bit like T. Higgins, but obviously a different size combination there. It's the fact that, what he is to me? He is that wideout who may not have, or a baseball player. I'll do a baseball one. If you do that 20/80 scouting scale, there may not be an 80 tool there. there's an awful lot of 60s and 70s. And when you have a bunch of 60s and 70s, it leads to being a really, really good wideout. I can't say that Jackson Smith Njigba is the best at a single thing a wide receiver does, but I don't think there's a single weakness to this guy's game either.
No, I think that's very well said. I don't know all the baseball scouting terminology. I just always grew up with the kind of the 5-tool player. And to me, exactly what Jackson Smith Njigba is. There is no real weakness to his game. I love the Amon-Ra St. Brown comparison. I think that it's very apt. I mean, to me, again, we're talking about two guys that don't have that elite straight line speed. To Chris's point about, maybe not having an elite grade in any one regard, but my goodness, he plays fast and he catches everything in sight and get open on anybody. And again, the competitiveness, the comparison I always gave JSN is he was coming out of Ohio State, what was one of my favorite wide receivers of all time. He's back in the NFL being productive again with the Los Angeles Chargers, and that's Keenan Allen. And I actually, Corbin and I had Matt Berry, the Seahawks scouting director, on, and we asked him for some comparisons, and he refused to kind of give a comparison. I threw out my Keenan Allen one, and I was, kind of expecting to scoff at it because, of course, Keenan Allen is a perennial All-Pro there for a while, and he didn't scoff at it. He just kind of mentioned that there was a difference in personality there, and the personality. It's not that I know Keenan Allen personally or JSN for that matter, but with Keenan Allen, one of the things I remember about him, one of my favorite things about him, is that he was actually recruited by Nick Saban at Alabama as a safety, not as a wide receiver, because of that physicality, because of that nastiness. And again, we saw some of the flashes of that physicality and competitiveness from JSN against the Houston Texans. I love that when Stingley got that interception, there was no way that that JSN was going to allow Stingley to make a big play after that. That's the kind of competitiveness. Again, it's not only the football skills as a pass catcher, as a receiver, that remind me of Keenan Allen. It's that he does have a little bit of dog to him, and that's rare at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, it really is. And it's great to see how much he's developed over these last couple of years, too. Because it's not like this guy came in and has been this good for a while. He's slowly gotten better and better and better each year, which gives me even more hope for the next couple of years as well, because this guy's still young, too. So tons of upside, as Chris loves to say. Tons of upside. Yes. Let's talk about the guy that's throwing to him, because as well as he has played all year long, and you heard the MVP chants in Lumen Field, which I love. I love it because I think he deserves some shout in that aspect. He may have had his worst game as a Seahawk, which is a weird way to say. I think it's actually a good thing that this was his worst game as a Seahawk. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break here on the Seahawk Squad Show. We'll talk about some Sam Darnold. We'll be right back. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. It delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. Make everyday drives feel anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season, and that's a big thing in Seattle. Please get all-wheel drive if you're in Seattle. I hate driving in the snow with Seattleites. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you move, we make every move count. Impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang with you. Seahawks win on Monday Night Football to go to 5-2 on the season. And let's talk. We just gave a ton of praise to JSN, as he has one of his better games of the season, although it's hard to pick from how many good ones he's had so far. Someone who may have had a little bit of a bump in the road, so to speak, was Sam Darnold. Now, I'm going to say, I don't think he played awful. There was still some very good throws that he made, including the JSN a couple times, made a couple really big plays. but he also made uncharacteristically a couple big mistakes. So I want to get your guys' evaluation on him, because my feeling out of that is, if that's the worst we see out of Sam Darnold this year, that's a win for me. And it feels like, just by the way he's playing, this wasn't a regression that was bound to happen. This was a couple mistakes that Sam Darnold knows he made that he can improve upon. What are your thoughts, Chris Crawford?
So when I first watched it, and after the Mariner game, which didn't happen, my therapist told me that
what Mariner game?
So I watched live from the mid third quarter on, and it's kind of crazy that 22 minutes, you got the full Sam Darnold experience of his career a little bit, right? You got a little bit of the really good. There were some really good throws. The absolute dot he throws on the sideline to JSN is one of the best throws that I have seen from a Seahawk in quite some time. There were also some throws that kind of made you go, oof. And I want to give credit to the Houston Texans secondary. Like we talked about Derek Stingley. It's not just him. Lassiter's a really good player. Jalen Petrie is a really good player. There are some guys on that Houston back seven and on the front seven, obviously, of course, that you'll take. You will absolutely have no problem rostering those guys. A couple of times where maybe he held on to the ball a little too long, including the defensive touchdown that he ends up giving up. Like initially watching it, I thought Will Anderson just powered through Charles Klaus there. The ball probably needs to get out a little bit quicker, just a little bit quicker there. Like you said, though, if this is the worst we get of Sam Darnold, the Seahawks are going to be just fine. Like, also, I think that, you could point to some weather condition stuff here. You're not going to play a heck of a lot of games at 8:00 at night and later than that when I was watching that game. So there's some excuses. He needs to play better if this is a Super Bowl contender, without question. But if this is your floor for Sam Darnold, you're a playoff team. You're absolutely a playoff team. I expect more, and you can't have 3 turnovers, but I saw enough good to not really take a ton of concern from this. And then to Rob's point too, that interception from Stingley is just an outstanding play from one of the best defenders in all of football. Wanted to make sure I got that out as well. But yeah, could have been worse.
Yeah, Rob, how do you evaluate it?
Yeah, I think that you guys articulated it well, that if this is the worst you're going to see from Sam Darnold, then, hey, you'd sign me up for this. I mean, because,
right.
He winds up, being relatively efficient. I mean, this is, again, the number 1 ranked defense in all of the NFL coming into this game that he just beat. He does throw for a touchdown. He does, obviously help the Seahawks get to this victory in the first place. That said, statistically, it was his worst performance. I mean, his completion percentage is 54.8%. That's a season low. His QBR rating was 40%. That is a season low. To Chris's point before, I 100% agree that he's got to get the ball out of his hands quicker when you're in your own end zone. And this is a defensive battle. Then you have got to get the ball out quicker than he did. I think that Charles Cross got beat by a bull rush by one of the best bull rushing edge rushers in all of the NFL. But again, you have to anticipate that might happen. And while I think that Stingley made an unbelievable interception, at the same time, I also thought that was a little bit of an inaccurate pass from Sam Darnold, a little bit too aggressive for a game that felt like you had this in hand. At the same time, again, I do think that Sam Darnold has been maybe not an MVP candidate. To me, that's I've used that description myself here. I thought that Baker Mayfield proved himself to be an MVP candidate. And Jonathan Taylor, the fact that he's leading the NFL in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns so far this season, 10 in 5 games is crazy talk. The fact that he's doing all those things, that to me is MVP candidate. But Sam Darnold right now through 7 games has 12 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions. All this talk that he was just, his statistics were inflated because of Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and their whole rest of the crew with the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold is doing this for a defensive-minded head coach that doesn't want him throwing this aggressively. Sam Darnold is doing it because he is just that talented, and he's got obviously a very talented wide receiver out there as well. So I think that Sam Darnold is having a Pro Bowl caliber year, and again, a big reason why the Seahawks are having the success that they are.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that sentiment. And I still think there's room for improvement, too, if he wants to take that next step. So hopefully that's what ends up happening. I want to touch quickly in the next couple of minutes on the usage of the tight ends, because I've been kind of hitting that drum for a while now that you need to get more out of them, especially in that first half. Elijah Arroyo is a big part of this offense. So is this something that we could start to rely on moving forward, Chris Crawford?
I hope so, and I still am not 100% sure that was a fumble on Arroyo, just to get that out of the way too, but it is what it is. You see what that guy can be. You see that ability as that big guy who's also capable of running some routes. This is not just a just run past a linebacker and hope for the best, or smash through a smaller cornerback guy. Like, there is some wiggle to his game. It probably needs to get a little better, and that's maybe one of the reasons why we've seen so much AJ Barner, who is just such an important player for what they're doing right now as well. And I think that also hurts Arroyo's potential for production. But you want to talk about upside. Like, there is just unbelievable upside in Arroyo's game. And unfortunately, what you've seen from Horton, what you've seen from Bobo, and what you've seen from Kupp, you're probably going to need Arroyo to make that step up. And that's not really an insult to those guys. I think they're perfectly solid, complementary players. And I think Horton has a chance to be even more than that. But there's going to be times where you need that upside play. And I do believe that Arroyo has that type of upside. I'd love to see more 2 tight end personnel and usage of the 12 personnel where you can actually get Arroyo the football some more. I'm not in those meetings. I don't know exactly. I haven't checked the PFF run blocking grades. It doesn't seem like he's too bad of a run blocker, but I really hope that we see Elijah Arroyo more used, because it just takes that offense from here to that next level up here.
Yeah, and it just seems like, Rob, let me just set this up for you. You can give your thoughts. My apologies. It just seems like what's been successful so far in the passing game, at least, especially with JSN, and I think what's been kind of a surprise is the fact that it's not dink and dunk. You're not getting these 5-10 yard passes. It's over the top stuff. And I think if you're going to take, like Chris said, take the offense to that next level, you're going to need that short range security blanket, whether it's Cooper Kupp, whether it is one of your tight ends. So unlocking that aspect of the offense, I think, is going to be huge in the short passing game. So you can add on that and whatever you're going to add before I kind of jumped in. I apologize.
No, that's all right. No, I just, it was one of the reasons why I was really excited about the addition of Elijah Arroyo when Seattle made that selection. It's just because I thought, okay, Clint Kubiak is really flexing here. They are going to use the tight end the way that, say the 49ers use George Kittle, or the Detroit Lions use Sam Laporta, the Las Vegas Raiders use Brock Bowers, not just in that 5 to 10 yard range, the way that Seattle used A.J. Barner a year ago, and have continued to be very effective with him this year. But they're going to send their tight ends out there moving double moves and going over the top down the seam, because Arroyo has that type of speed. And so I was really excited when that happened, and even more excited because it is coming to fruition. I mean, he was Seattle's second leading receiver against the Texans here. And this is the team, and we talked about before, the Texans have quite the secondary and some very good pass rushers. So again, for Seattle to kind of call upon their rookie tight end to be able to be as much of a big part of this offense in that particular game as he was. I mean, A.J. Barner had 1 catch for 7 yards. He was very effective as a run blocker, but wasn't being asked to be much of a pass receiver. That was clearly the Elijah Arroyo game plan going into this football game. So again, to me, it's kind of like we talked about with Nick Eamon-Wari before. Like, you just are so excited about who he is right now, but what he could become is just like blows your mind. Same thing here with Elijah Arroyo. If he can stay healthy, if he can develop a little bit more of that kind of a physical presence to him, be able to not have the ball ripped out of your hands, whether that be incomplete pass or, as it was ruled, a fumble, be a little bit more of a physical blocker. But still, the size, speed, and soft hands combination is, again, Pro Bowl caliber stuff.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big parts and positive things about this season, 7 weeks in so far, is the fact that it feels like we're 5-2. We've had some really good wins, and there's still a lot more to unpack. It feels like there's more there, whether it's defensively, like I mentioned earlier, with the breakout game today. If they start to become even more disruptive, making plays, they can take over games, whether it's Sam Darnold taking another step, whether it's the running game, which we haven't even talked about today, the tight end usage, like we just mentioned, JSN continuing to rise. There's a lot of things on the upward trajectory that you feel like you could still get more out of. Sure. And that's why I get really excited about this Seahawks team this year, and why I think a lot of us were pretty bullish on them going into this year, especially you, Rob Rang, giving them the record that you did in our season prediction show. So, okay. That we've done a lot of praising up until this point. I want to dive in a little bit into the concerns in our last segment, because this game was not without its faults from the Seahawks. It feels like this is like the second or third week in a row where the game should have been over. You were dominating the game. Right. You let an inferior opponent hang around. Is that a result of conservative play calling and you just wanting to rely on your defense to shut the door? Or do they need to have more of a killer instinct late in games? I'm going to ask you guys what you think about that on the other side of the break here on the Seahawks Squad Show on Locked On Seahawks. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And that app is awesome. It's a great way to add some juice onto games that you're already probably watching, looking at the NFL ratings recently. You're already watching probably for your fantasy team. You could throw on some juice on a team as well and just make it all happen. Whether you're a futures guy, look at the NFL MVP odds. Maybe there's something you expect to happen in the second part of the season. You can live bet on games. You can do over-unders, prop bets, the money lines. You can throw some parlays together. There's a ton of ways you can get some action and make your picks mean something a little bit. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang with you. We've been having a lot of fun with a fairly positive episode after the Seahawks Monday Night Football win against the Houston Texans to go to 5-2 on the season. But I want to get your guys' thoughts, because this is one of the kind of residing feelings I have from that game on Monday night. Was it just feels like that game shouldn't have even been close to being close. And it was. Now, granted, the Texans didn't ever have a chance to tie the game or anything like that, but it still felt like this should have been over a long time ago, whether it's turnovers, whether it's short drives that you just give the ball back, whether it's kind of a garbage time touchdown at the end of the game. Chris, what are your thoughts regarding how much of this is a worry for you when they play possibly an opponent they need to kind of step on the throat of, and maybe having a lack of confidence in them doing that?
You know, it's interesting, because this is, again, why I'm glad I took some time to watch this instead of having to go live. And I love going live right after. It's great to have those raw reactions. We love that stuff. But there is also a reason why that it's nice to take a look at some stuff and to take some time, because, you know, I think for the most part, the mistakes are not stuff that really concerns me. Like, I don't expect Sam Darnold to make I also know that Derek Stingley isn't playing the Seahawks again. Like, that's nice to know. He's not going to step in front of a pass that probably leads to a very long JSN reception there. But I think probably the biggest concern that I have right now is linebacker coverage. And I think that really showed up yesterday. And, you know, Ernest Jones, I know, gets the interception. That's just a bad throw by Stroud. I can't remember if he got hit on that or not, but it was not like what a great piece of deception. It just kind of floats into Ernest Jones' hands. And Drake Thomas, while he's made some plays, it's kind of tough watching him cover guys. And I'll, give some credit to Dalton Schultz, give credit to Woody Marks is a guy that I think they're just going to have to throw the ball to like 10 times because they're not going to be able to run the football enough. And that guy is a good receiver. He's a good receiver.
Yeah.
The last time you'll hear me say something positive about a USC player not playing on the Seahawks, but he is a guy. And I have my concerns about this linebacking core covering those guys. I think Dalton Schultz ends up with like 9 catches for 98 yards.
Yeah.
And some of that credit, by the way, real quick, Tariq Woolen, I thought played a fantastic football game as well today. And that is fun to see. He, outside of the game against San Francisco, Tariq Woolen has been much more of a positive when on the field, of course, than a detriment. But I think that's my big concern right now is just that these linebackers, and Ernest Jones is a very solid player, fits this defense so much better than Jerome Baker. It's not even funny. But the coverage is something that I'm paying close attention to, and I haven't been real encouraged by what I've seen so far, especially over the last couple of weeks.
All right, Rob, what about the other side of the ball? Does it feel like maybe offensively they could step on the jugular a little bit, so to speak? They had a couple drives that either stalled or had turnovers, and you had a chance to really put this game out of reach a lot earlier than it was.
No, I think that you're absolutely right. They could have stepped on the jugular and didn't. They're walking around in like flip-flops or sandals or something instead of, like a steel-toed boot there. I mean, This is the way that Seattle's fourth quarter went offensively. To start the fourth quarter, they're up 27-12. They have a 3-play drive, 4 total yards punt. Then they have the next drive. It goes 4 plays. They have the Elijah Arroyo fumble.
Yep.
Obviously, that's a turnover. The next Seattle drive. Again, they're still up 27-12 at this point. 2 plays. It's that the interception. And then the next drive, Seattle has the ball for 3 plays, punt. And then finally, they do get the first down at the very end to kind of salt the game away based on a Houston silly penalty that they basically gave them that opportunity, because they did. If Houston gets the ball back at the end of that game, they're down by 8 points. They could conceivably have come back. There's a reason, guys, why I'm gray on my temples up here is because, again, just watching a lot of Seahawks football over the years, it does feel like this is a team that has not yet mastered how to put an inferior opponent away. And so, Anders, I thought that you kind of hit the nail on the head here. This is a concern, at least for me, and I think it's one for Mike McDonald as well, that, look, there were moments where I thought Sam Darnold played kind of like what we've seen a bad Sam Darnold play like in the past. I thought, oh my goodness, is this really going to fall apart on you? Is this going to be like, what happened to the New York Giants with Denver Broncos, make this huge, come from behind victory? Obviously, that's a very different environment, but still, it felt like this is your nightmare scenario.
Yep.
And so, again, I think that some of that has to do with play calling. I really thought that Seattle, if you were going to run the ball, Seattle, again, did not run the ball as effectively as I would like. But still, I think if you are going to run the ball, now is the time to do that, or set up some screens, some things like that.
Sure.
Try to keep the ball in bounds, keep that clock running. And then again, there's some times where I thought the Sam Darnold was a little bit too aggressive, where he did on the one of those the third down or on the third play punt with late in the game. Seattle used 30 seconds of clock. They ran one time. Zach Charbonnet for a gain of 3 yards, and then Darnold went deep on the left side. And while I love the precision they showed, I love the aggression. Again, at that time of the game, I really thought the Seattle should have played a little bit closer to the vest. So I do think this is an issue. To Chris's point about coverage, I thought that this was a better game in terms of coverage from Drake Thomas, from Ernest Jones. You mentioned the interception. Drake Thomas had 3 breakups in this game. Right. And I think that C.J. Stroud, at the time, I think he basically realized that without Nico Collins on the field, he had to throw the ball to the tight end. He had to throw the ball to the backs. I think the Seattle adjusted to that. I haven't seen that same adjustment on the offensive side of the ball. Yes. And so that would be my bigger concern at this point.
Chris, how much of that is play calling? Do you feel like they should be more aggressive with that instead of just kind of the handoff throw to try and get a first down? Because it just seems like I get it. You want to be a defense first team and you don't want to make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to be very conservative during the if you have a lead late in the game, let your defense win it for you. But it just seems like there's a lot of missed opportunities offensively.
I think one of the things that really hurt, and by the way, if the NFL is being paid a commission for flags, then they hit their mark and then some today. 22 penalties. And unfortunately, some late drives there where some holding calls that not only erase some nice runs from Kenneth Walker, also set you back, and you got to go 1st and 20, or you got to go 2nd and 17.
Sure.
It wasn't my favorite game from Kubiak. It wasn't like one where it's like a master class that you're going to be selling people to go to your class. But it wasn't, I don't think it was all on Kubiak. I think there were just some execution issues. I do think that the running game played well, though. I thought that Kenneth Walker had a very solid football game. I thought that Zach Charbonnet had a very solid game. And I think the offensive line blocked pretty well as well. There's some times where some guys are reaching, and there's some times where the grabbing is just a little too obvious. It's happening on every play, but you gotta be careful with that type of stuff, because especially when you have a 27-12 lead and you are running the football relatively effectively, that's a time where I want the ground and pound. That's a time where I want to see those guys involved. So it wasn't my favorite Kubiak game, but I think a lot of it has to do with just a lot of circumstance where you were put in situations to fail because of the fact that you were so far behind the original line of scrimmage.
Yeah, Rob, do you agree with that?
I do, and I think that Kubiak is going to get roasted because of the surprising play where they basically have Cooper Kupp throw the ball, and then of course it was just an inaccurate pass by Cooper Kupp. But if that works, and again, we're talking about two defensive-minded teams right here. This was a chance for Seattle to put that proverbial steel-toed boot on their throat early in this football game, and they went for it. Sometimes you call the perfect play at the perfect moment, and the execution just doesn't happen. So again, I think that there were some things I was critical about with Kubiak, with Sam Darnold. I actually kind of like that play call just because it was so counter to what you've done. And I thought that it should have worked. It just obviously didn't. And, again, sometimes you just got to tip your cap to your opponent as well. They're pretty damn good as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the overwhelming thought I have as well. If this wasn't like the 3rd or 4th week in a row where I felt that way, because the same thing happened in the Jacksonville game too, where it was like you've been dominating this game and it just can't put it away. I think that's just kind of how this Seahawks team plays, though. They're gonna, and I totally agree with you, Rob. I love the play call, by the way, on the Cooper Kupp kind of end around pass, because it is very subversive, so to speak. And if it does work, hopefully they still have some of those big play calls in the book to not show teams. I think that it's going to be something we monitor moving forward. It's not a huge concern for me yet, because all that matters is getting that win week in and week out. And more often than not, that's what's been happening. And if you look across the league, some really good teams are struggling with that. So 5-2 at this point in the season, with how this NFL season is shaping out, you just got to take your wins, move on, go to the bye week 5-2, which is a massive win, by the way, to stay kind of even with the rest of the NFC West. Both the Rams and Niners are starting to get going a little bit. We saw Detroit earlier in the Monday night game look really, really good. They've kind of shut some people up on if they're done after Ben Johnson left. So this NFC picture is not going to be easy to be taken. So you have to stay kind of in stride with a lot of these other really, really good teams. And I think the Seahawks have separated themselves from maybe one of those average teams that's kind of like what we saw with the Houston Texans, probably a playoff team and just sneaks in and goes out in the first round, to a team that really hopes to do something more. And I think that's going to be why we have these little nitpicks in these really good wins like the fourth quarter today. So really appreciate both your guys' thoughts today. A massive victory. Chris,
can I bring up one thing real quick?
Yeah. Just
because I'll kick myself if I don't, and it's literally kicking. What the hell are the Houston Texans doing after that touchdown? I don't get it. Someone explain that one to me. Why are you not either just booting that thing straight through the goalpost or doing the onside kick? You did the one thing that you cannot do there. Is that a mistake in just communication or what? Why are you what? In that it was a one-score game. It was a one-score game in that situation. And I know onside kicks are hard to get, but the one thing you couldn't do there was what they did. Thank you so much, because it basically guaranteed the Seahawk win. That was we have not seen the Seahawks at least make mistakes at that level. And that was a massive mistake in that football game.
Yeah, Rob, are you surprised?
Stunned. I mean, that's the second time now that the Seattle basically has had an opponent just make a critical error late in the game on special teams. And that has basically all but gift wrapped Seattle at least a possession and arguably the game. And then my final note on this, guys, is again, there is not a team in the NFC that has more victories than the Seattle Seahawks. The only team that has a better winning percentage, is a whole glut of teams tied basically at 5-2, is the Green Bay Packers at 4-1-1. So again, I do think that this is a team that is primed for a significant playoff run. Sure, they've had some lucky breaks as well, but the fact that they have had the injuries they have in the secondary, which is arguably the most gifted group, and yet is still basically tied for second place. Again, there's some tiebreakers here. If the playoffs were right now, Seattle would have the 6th seed. Okay, so they'd be in the playoffs, but they are just that far away from being a real contender for a bye.
Yep, totally agree. And speaking of buys, Seahawks go on their bye this week, so you won't have a post-game show from us, but we will be doing another squad show episode later this week, kind of maybe just doing a quick report card on the season, because I think it's a perfect time to do it. After 7 weeks, you got the bye, no game to prepare for. I want to know what your guys' thoughts, kind of a little mini one right now in this last segment, but hopefully we get Corbin's thoughts as well in on that. I appreciate when Chris Crawford and Rob Rang join me because, a lot of us may have been a little distracted last night with another game. I don't know what. No other game was going on last night. It was just Kraken and Seahawks. And then so them kind of breaking it down for me, showing how I should be feeling, and then kind of walking me off the ledge or making me get a little bit more hyped based off of how they've gone. And I think what Rob said is really, really important there. Like, if you look at the there's so many bad teams in this version of the NFL, and the Seahawks are definitely not one of those. But even like the kind of average to mediocre teams are making these massive mistakes, and the Seahawks are not making those massive mistakes. Just keep getting the wins, move on to the next week, improve little by little, and I think that's what they're doing right now. The defense is looking great. Sam Darnold's playing well. JSN's a superstar. Keep improving in the running game, and I think we're all going to be okay. So. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you a little bit later this week. Go Hawks, and have a good bye week. Have some fun. If you're a massive Seahawks fan, you live and die every week. Take a little week off. But we'll still be with you. Rob Rang with Locked On Seahawks. Chris Crawford will be with us once again later this week, hopefully with the squad show. Please follow all of their stuff. They do an excellent job covering this wonderful football team. We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one. Go Hawks.